Greetings, YouTubes and WoT Tanks fans. Today I'm going to go through the tech trees and basically shed some light on some of the tanks, at least in my opinion, how they are, what I think about them. And I'll give some information on them, on anything that I know of offhand, any experiences in battle, if something's noteworthy or just outright horrible. Now, we're going to start out with my favorite nation of tanks, and that's Germany. Here we go. Start at Tier 1, obviously. Let's see. We're going to start out with the Tier 1 lull tractor, as people call it. Now, at Tier 1, how do I explain Tier 1? It's basically for new players. I've had experiences with way better players playing at Tier 1. Why, I have no idea. I mean, you do make money and you can get through the Tier 1 relatively quick. There isn't really any one outstanding Tier 1 tank I could think of. I mean, most of them have crummy armor, the guns are I think that's the best way to explain Tier 1 is it's meant, I think, just as a stepping stone to get into the game. Anyway, the lull tractor over here, I've had some good success with it. Nothing phenomenal. I mean, it does have an autocannon at some points. You can change that out for a single shot cannon if you want. The layout of the tank, obviously, engine's right here, which is kind of a hindrance for this vehicle. I mean, if you're trying to make a turn, you have to actually reverse the tank backwards, rotate the turret, and shoot around corners. At least that's how I would do it. At that point, though, if you're driving straight ahead, the first thing that's going to most likely get hit is the engine, and getting hit in the engine is very much a no-no. Your engine can get destroyed, catch fire. It's not a pleasurable thing to have the engine in the front of the tank. At least it's not ones that don't have enough armor at the front. This, it's paper armor. Crew quarters, obviously back here. Though I've had some odd shots every now and then from the back put me on fire, but that's kind of confusing since the engine's in the front and the crew combat quarters are right here, so what catches fire in there? Is not an ammo rack, that's for sure. It's just those oddities WoT Tanks has from time to time. From what I understand, many years ago and many patches back, German tanks were notoriously bad on catching fire. Like, anyone would shoot the lower glacis plate and bam, the thing went up like a Roman candle. I mean, anything that could penetrate had a good chance of catching the thing on fire. Now, anyone who knows tank anatomy knows all too well that's a lie. Shooting someone in the front if their engine is located in the back of the tank, what are you going to hit? You're going to hit the transmission and the fire is going to follow the transmission to the engine? That won't happen. It can't happen. I mean, you need a constant heat and a constant flame to travel the length of the entire tank to the engine to ignite it. And transmission fluids are not exactly the most flammable of materials. I mean, you need the heat. You need the flame, all of it. Strangely enough, back then, from what I understand, hitting them in the lower plate set them on fire. And it was notorious. The German tanks were notorious for catching fire if you shot them there. Now, what's strange about this is a lot of other tanks also shared the same layout of engines. The Americans had the same way, but you hardly ever hear of people catching fire in American tanks back then. But they fixed that since then, and kudos for Wargaming for that. They actually listened to what people were saying and did some research possibly and realized it was very inaccurate. Good for them. Anyway, back to the lull tractor. Equipment I would put on this thing. I don't know why you would want to, but if you plan on keeping it and you like it, I would suggest maybe a camo net. Hide in a bush, snipe people, some binocs, maybe some venting. Get the crew better trained, you know? Alright, let's get to the next tier here. From the light tractor, we can start off with artillery, tank destroyer line, light tanks. Obviously, you got 3 branches of light tanks it's coming from. So let's start with something that I know and have used in the past. I'm going to start with the tank destroyer. The Jagdpanzer 4, I believe the name was. Correction, Jagdpanzer 4. Which pretty much translates to tank hunter. Now, I had a complete blast using this thing. This is back before they got rid of the province map. When I first started playing, I loved this tank. I had some high successes in it, especially on that map where, I hate to say it was Camp Central, but Camp Central is what tank destroyers are meant to do. They do that. That's what they're made for. They don't sit there and take the shots. I mean, you have some tank destroyers that can, looking at the AT line of the British tanks, destroyers, but these guys, no. Also, being at tier 2, the targets don't have much armor to shoot through, and the gun itself is more than sufficient to punch through the armor. Occasionally, you might get a strange angle, a bounce might happen, but most of the times with this gun, you're going right through. And if you want to get this tank destroyer, go right ahead. Just be wise how to use it. Don't be in the front lines trying to shoot people. Let your teammates spot for you. At that point, just blast away. This tank, seeing limited maps now, thanks to the patch, whatever one it was that limited tanks to see certain maps, this tank destroyer is absolute garbage in confrontational maps, such as Mittengard, where everyone dashes down the slope into town trying to shoot at targets and whatnot. Some people occasionally hide out on the slopes trying to shoot down and ultimately end up getting killed, being sniped by several tanks. But this thing performs absolutely horribly on Mittengard. Map's too small, no coverage, everything in Mittengard has the new play style that Wargaming wants. Fast, in your face, get past lower tiers until you start getting into tier 3, 4, and 5, when things have to slow down a little bit to some degree. At least this is how I'm viewing it. I may be wrong, maybe I'm just viewing it wrong, but that's the impression I have. But the Panzerjäger 1, I can't say enough good things about it. I have had many successes in it. I've had top guns in it. I've had a lot of good matches in the thing. I liked it. I can't complain about it. Equipment readout on this thing, absolutely, if you must, camo net. Vents won't work, obviously. I mean, what are you venting exactly? It's all open in the back. Vents, yes. Maybe. Yes, no. No way vents would work on that. It's all wide open in the back. Anyway. Camo net, maybe a gun laying drive or rammer to help with aim time and whatnot, loading speed. I really wouldn't put much more on it. I mean, you gotta take consideration that the equipment that you put on this thing is way more valuable price-wise than the actual vehicle itself. And that's the problem with low tiers. They don't give much of a discount on the equipment you have to put on the tank if you want to. Alright, on to the next tank here. Let's see, what do we have here? Adding comparison. Yes, the PZ-35T. Czechoslovakian captured tank that the Germans used. What do I think about this tank? It's okay. I've bounced occasional shot with this thing. And I mean occasional as in super rare. I mean, I really can't say anything that this tank is extremely good at. I mean, you have your stats all over here. You can compare it with other tanks if you want. But when I played it, sure, I was new to the game and really didn't know how to play too well. But, again, Tier 2, most people are just going to breeze right through it. But I really don't have an overall fondness to this tank. To be honest, I think it's one of those blah tanks you can do with or without. I mean, if you want to be good in it, sure, I would imagine it has potential, but honestly, I don't know. It's not phenomenal. I mean, I've had some games where the rapid fire gun, which is really nice, it's not an autocannon, it just fires relatively fast, has been helpful in situations, to say the least. But again, armor's not that great, easy target to take out. I mean, nothing at Tier 2 that stands out saying, wow, this is worth getting. Equipment, again, vents, I would say yes if you want to keep this. Maybe some binocs. If you want to be an active scout, you can get some coated optics on this thing. Gun rammer, maybe. Gun lane drive. All that for reload and faster aim time. And remember, we're still talking about Tier 2 here. The game's designed to keep the flow of fast-paced action going on. This is how I am seeing it. But again, it's an okay kind of tank. I mean, there are worse tanks, and even at higher tiers, there are worse tanks than this. And I will be getting into them.